Good afternoon and welcome to our assignment-based presentation for Educational Management 2. And these are the codes ACS-EM12, DPP-EM32 for students that are taking this particular module. My name is George Kandetu, and on your screen appears my number. Cell phone number, that is. First of all, let us look at the structure of the assignment. As you can see, those are the courses that are covered under this assignment: ACSE, ACSE, DPP-E, and the subject is Educational Management 2. And then all my details are appearing there, including my email, gkandetu@gmail.com. Very importantly, there is the deadline for your assignment, 15th of January and 15th of June 2018 respectively. So please do not wait, do not procrastinate before you start with your assignments. There are materials for you, especially the Handbook of School Management by Clark, 2007, and of course your study guide for educational management as compiled by Michelle Hutton. I must reiterate that the study guide is a very important document because that is a document that is actually tailor-made for your course. So although you might get some information from other sources, your study guide remains relevant. Even before you source other information, you are guided by the study guide, especially when you look at the learning outcomes, because those learning outcomes determines how far you need to go with your research. Otherwise, you will read a lot of information but in the end remain irrelevant. The role of the study guide, therefore, is to guide you through the prescribed materials. You may take a book to read, but if you don't know the learning outcomes that are required, you read the whole book and end up confused. So that's why you need to check what are the learning outcomes. So before you start with any unit, the learning outcomes are stipulated, and those are the guiding lines, how far you need to go, to give you direction, and also keeping the outcomes of each unit as well as the module's outcomes in mind, and also to expose you to learning activities which you can use as means of self-assessment. If you look at your study guide, you will see that at the end of each unit or the beginning of each unit, there are some activities designed as revision. So you need also to study that because part of your examination or your assignments are also covered through those activities. So you need to exercise that. This is the assessment policy. It's a continuous assessment per trimester, and it consists of only one assignment of 120 marks, and you are required to obtain a minimum of 50% for you to be admitted into the examination room. There is no need to settle only for 50% while you can get more than that, because you have the time, you have the resources, so there is no reason why you cannot score more than 50%. Assignment instructions, read the instructions. They are part of the package, and keep to the suggested structure. Do not copy blatantly, we call that plagiarism, from a source. You should refer to that source in the text. So if it is not your own idea or your own writing, please acknowledge the person from which you stole the idea, acknowledge the person duly. When your own analysis or evaluation is asked, you are expected to use your own experience as a teacher. And in many of the aspects that I'm going to discuss with you now, there are such scenarios where you need to give your own examples from your experience, or to use or evaluate information that are given. Students are expected to write or type on one side of the page to make the marking easier. Staple separate pages of the assignment on the left top corner. Clearly number the questions and subsections as well as the pages. Write the title of the assignments on the cover of the assignments. So in a nutshell, we say your assignment must be presentable. It must be neat. Your handwriting must be legible if you are writing. If you are typing, please make sure that there are no spelling mistakes, and your font is also correct. This is how the assignment structure looks like. This assignment is marked out of 120, and it consists out of 5 questions, and all these 5 questions are compulsory. The assignment should be structured as follows. The first page is actually the cover page, and that one is provided by IOL. The second page is where you write your table of content, and should consist of all the headings and subheadings, as well as the corresponding page numbers where the headings can be found. So you must make a reference of where, if the topic is, for example, HIV and AIDS, I need to, by looking at the content, I should be able to know I will locate it at page 5 for that matter. Next pages are the pages for you to answer question 1 up to 5. And the last page is the page where you make your references. So all the sources or materials that you have read must be referenced in the last page. Looking at your assignment, the first question deals with empowerment. There is a diagram that you need to analyze, evaluate, and then apply the question to the school context. So the diagram is generic, it's general. So, but if you study it very correctly, you will see that there are features that can be used in a school context. And those are the features that you must bring across. And you give relevant examples why you say these features are actually relevant to a school context. You may use your own opinion to substantiate facts. The same diagram also continues critical conditions for cultivating an empowering environment. So you explain the diagram in your own words. What do you understand in your own words? Use example from the school situation, so you contextualize by making reference to a school situation. And then we have the principle-centered leadership by Dr. Covey. There he cites 4 levels of leadership and their core principles. So for every level of leadership, there are principles that goes together with it. So you are required to outline those 4 levels of leadership with their corresponding principles. Very straightforward in your study guide. And then you have an essay to write. I think that essay counts 30 marks if I'm not mistaken. Distinguish management from leadership functions. So in other words, there is a different or a slight difference between management and leadership functions. So you outline those differences in an essay format, and you refer to this function in a school settings. Every time you make examples of the school setup. And then the next question is where you are required to compare the features of the autocratic and participative management style or democratic management style. So here you need to give examples where each of those management styles are used. So you need to highlight situations where we can use, for example, autocratic management style. We don't say entirely that autocratic management style is a bad management style. What we are saying is there are situations or scenarios where you need to use an autocratic management style because of how the situation presents itself. What are the advantages for using each management style? You need to tell us that. Factors determining management's leadership style. What are you looking at? Why is it important that in this particular moment you should use a participative management style or democratic management style? And then the characteristics of effective school leaders. What are the characteristics of effective school leaders? And that you can find it very clearly in your study guide. And then you are required to distinguish between the power from leadership. Discuss how followers react to different positions of power. When or how do they react when you use referent power, for example? And when or how do they react when you use a particular power? So you need to distinguish between power from leadership. Reasons why leaders or managers fail. There are various reasons for managers to fail, very well outlined in your study guide. But then there are also actions that you can take to mitigate or to counter these type of failures by managers. So in other words, you mention the reason for leaders to fail, and then you mention underneath the action that you can use to mitigate this failure. Main characteristics of critical thinking. The candidate or you should be able to describe characteristics of critical thinking. How do we know that this particular person is operating in a critical thinking mode? That will bring us to the end of our presentation, and I just want to wish you good luck for your assignments and to remind you that you have enough time to go through all your materials and to make a presentable assignment before the deadline. Thank you very much.